In another video, I read a few of the poems from Borrowed Images, and I wanted to read a few more and just mention how the book is organized. So I took the collection of poems and I broke them up into three categories. The first category is images of grief, and that deals a lot with the passing of my father and shortly thereafter the passing of my grandmother. So there are poems that interact with grief. Then there's another section that interacts with images from the wild world. So things that I observed out in nature or in my immediate surroundings. And then the last section is images of faith. So it's portrayals of faith that took shape in the poem. So I wanted to read one poem from each of those sections. They're very different in terms of the feelings that they evoke. But again, if you saw the other video I posted, poetry for me is a thoughtful, very intentionally arranged expression of an idea. It's still meant to communicate something. And so I hope that these poems do. The first one is called Like Water, and it's actually based on 2 Samuel 14:14, which says, like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be recovered. The idea there is that life is almost like water spilled out of a cup, and once it's out, there can't really be anything done to put it back in the cup. So it gets at the quick-moving, ephemeral nature of life. But here's the poem called Like Water. In a hospital room of white linen and metal gates, he lay as a bowl tilted, emptied of half of himself. Life absorbs as by a cloth. We watched his eyes intently then. We had no container to put him in. Weeks later, he died in a living room, the vessel emptied, a mirror on the wooden floor. It has long since evaporated, and we have turned to wasps, still seeking the place where the water was. So death's rag stays wet, allowing you to build your nest, but the sun knows well how to skeleton your home. Wind brushing from the window, what you call your own. The next poem from the Images in the Wild World is actually just titled with the date of March 5th, 2007. So this is quite a long time ago. But this was an observation I had in looking out a window in the woods in the house where I grew up. The trees lay down their darker selves on the white snow. Next to the burn barrel sits garbage in a towing bed, ripe in the sun. An old newspaper flaps in the wind, and a plastic bag dances next to a rusty tire. Threads from old clothes, as sentences grow thin and let go, taking their place in the wind. All things are going. And the final poem I'll read is a reflection of faith called The Way of Words. Anyone who knows me knows how greatly I have a love and appreciation for language, and especially I have a passion for how language functions in our faith and in our salvation. So some of that's hidden in this poem called The Way of Words. Words are as breath. Let me start again. Sometimes you have to get the poem read the right way to have the effect you want it to have. So that's a fact that some people who don't read poems don't know. So let me try again. The Way of Words. Words are as dirt and breath and nothing less. Rub them on your skin like a dog rubs his body in the dust. Act on the scent. A must of sound must turn graphic. Let the words commune with you and I. We who die must find a union to survive. Salvation sleeps in speech. So if you're familiar with the Gospel of John, you can probably get a sense of where that comes from, especially John 1:1. But those are 3 more poems from the collection. Again, they're meant to be accessible poems, each of them communicating an idea that you can meditate on and chew on slowly. Poems are always meant to be read slowly. In fact, a friend of mine once told me he thought it was a sin to read poems online because poems deserved a kind of slowness that paper affords. And maybe it's in that spirit that I've only published these in paperback form. I have not put them in an ebook, partly because I do believe that poems are best read on a page, on real textured paper. So I hope that they are read slowly and that they maybe generate some of your own thoughts about the common things that you've experienced in your own life.